I've read over 100 leadership and personal development books. I'm sharing 17 of these books, how they rewired how I think, how I lead, and who I'm becoming. I'm Adam, Maxwell Certified Leadership Coach. And in this video, I'm giving you the distilled core of all 17 books organized around one framework: identity, growth, leadership, and impact. Pillar number 1, your identity. Who the leader is before leading. So the first 3 books we are covering all speak to the same root question. Who are you really before anyone gives you a title? Book number 1, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Here is the trap most driven people fall into. They work incredibly hard and they build something, but they don't actually know why they are building it. Warren's entire argument is this: purpose is not something you invent. It is something you discover. And until you anchor your leadership to something beyond yourself, you are just managing ambition. The distinction that changed things for me is what I started calling the drifting operator versus the driven operator. The drifter reacts. Their day is shaped by whoever is loudest. They measure success by business. They mistake motion for direction. The driven operator filters every decision through a predetermined framework, a mission that pulls them forward. They don't need to be motivated because they are oriented. The principle here is simple, but not always comfortable for us. Your identity cannot be self-invented. The moment you try to build a leadership identity from ego alone, you build something hollow, and hollow leaders collapse under pressure. Here is what you can do daily. Audit your energy, not your tasks. Where are you spending cognitive bandwidth? And does it serve a mission larger than yourself? If not, you have drift, and drift compounds. By the way, let me give you a bit more detail on the 4 pillars around which these 17 books are organized and how they build on each other intentionally. Pillar number 1, like I said, it is identity, who you are before you lead. Pillar 2 has to do with growth, who you are becoming while you lead. Pillar number 3, leadership, how you actually influence others. And pillar number 4, impact, what your leadership produces that outlasts you. For each one of these books, I will give the core transformation each book is trying to produce in you, the key principle, and one thing you can apply today. Let us get back to it. Book number 2, Understanding Your Potential by Myles Munroe. Munroe defines potential not as what you've done, but as what you haven't done yet. His thesis is that the richest place on earth is the graveyard because it is full of ideas that never became businesses, books that never got written, and leaders who never fully showed up. That image stuck with me, and here's the leadership principle embedded in it. The greatest threat to your next level is satisfaction with your current one. He identifies 2 types: the satisfied settler, who treats success as a destination and transitions into protection mode, protecting what they've built instead of building what is next. And the restless pioneer, who treats every win as data, not as destination. Here is what I want you to pull from this. You are created full, not empty. Whatever capacity you are operating at right now, that is not your ceiling. That is just where you stopped asking new questions of yourself. Now your action. Identify one area where you are genuinely comfortable. Then ask, what will it look like to place a new unreasonable demand on that exact skill? Discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is development. Book number 3, Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. Grant brings a research lens to what Munroe describes spiritually, and together they are devastating to any excuse you have for staying where you are. Here is the core finding. The leaders who outperform their peers over the long haul are not the most talented. They are the most coachable. They develop what Grant calls character skills, specifically the willingness to be bad at something new and to keep going anyway. He makes a distinction I use in my coaching constantly: the paralyzed perfectionist versus the proactive imperfectionist. The perfectionist waits until they are ready, which means they never start anything genuinely hard. They protect their self-image instead of expanding their capability. The imperfectionist builds what Grant calls a mistake budget. They decide in advance how many failures are acceptable, and then they pursue those failures deliberately because failures are just data collection. This is identity work, not productivity work. Because what keeps most leaders small is not lack of skill. It is a self-concept that can survive being bad at something new. This week, name one initiative you've been avoiding because the probability of failure is high and pursue it. That is not recklessness. That is how identity actually expands. If your leadership potential is being buried, start figuring out what to do today by downloading our leadership identity audit. It will save years of figuring out how to lead effectively and will take you less than 10 minutes to complete. The link is in the description. Now, pillar number 2, growth. Who the leader is becoming. Identity gives you the foundation, but growth is the frame you build on top of it. Growth is what I engineer on purpose. This leads to books number 4, the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Maxwell opens these books with what he calls the growth gap traps, and I want you to check yourself against each one right now. Number 1, the assumption gap. I will grow automatically with time. That is wrong, unfortunately. Growth doesn't happen without design. Gap number 2, the timing gap. It is not the right season. This is the most sophisticated form of procrastination. There will always be a reason to wait. Gap number 3, the comparison gap. Others are so far ahead of me, and while you are watching them, you are not building. These gaps are built around what he calls the law of intentionality, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Please don't miss this. Growth requires a decision, followed by a system, followed by daily discipline. The contrast he draws is between the accidental learner and the intentional student. The accidental learner only grows through trauma. They learn after painful mistakes because they never built systems to learn before them. The intentional student designs the curriculum of their own life. Here is the practical takeaway. You need a non-negotiable time block in your day that belongs to growth and nothing else. I know you have emails to read, calls to return, but none of that. Only growth. Plan for 30 minutes minimum. That block is the difference between a leader who drifts and one who compounds. Now, book number 5, The Gap and the Gain by Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. This book answers a question that almost no one asks. Why do high achievers feel like failures? The answer is measurement. Specifically, most high-performing leaders measure themselves against the ideal, the vision, the goal, the person they are trying to become. And because the ideal always moves, they always feel behind. Sullivan calls this living in the gap, and it creates chronic dissatisfaction that eventually turns into burnout. The alternative is the gain, measuring backward against your starting point instead of forward against an ever-receding horizon. You don't ignore the goal, you just refuse to let it make you feel like nothing when you are actually further along than you've ever been. Here is why this is leadership work and not just self-help. A leader who lives in the gap operates from a different kind of authority, one rooted in demonstrated progress rather than anxious aspiration. One habit I found helpful, and hopefully for you too. Before you sleep tonight, write down 3 specific things that are true now that weren't true a year ago. 3 gains. Do it consistently and watch what happens to your confidence, your clarity, and your capacity to lead others through difficulty. And book number 6, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. Burchard studied high performers across industries for years and found something that disrupts the hustle culture narrative almost completely. The highest performers are not the ones who works the most. They are the ones who manage their energy most strategically. His 6 habits are a full framework, but the 3 I want to give you are the ones with the highest return on investment for leaders specifically. First, seek clarity. Not about your 5 years plan, about right now. Before every significant meeting, every major decision, ask yourself, who do I need to be in this moment? What is the specific emotional state I need to bring? Clarity is not a decision. It is a pre-engagement practice. Second, generate energy. He talks about what he calls transitions, the moment between activities. Most leaders let those moments bleed. The stress from the last meeting walks into the next one. Burchard says you build a ritual. You release the last thing physically. Set your intention for the next thing consciously. 60 seconds. That is all it takes. Third, raise necessity. Know exactly whose outcome depends on your A game today. Name them. This converts passive desire into something closer to obligation, and obligation is far more durable than motivation. Sustainable excellence is a system. If you don't have one, you are running on borrowed adrenaline, and that debt always comes due. Book number 7, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry. Here is the fact that should bother every leader who takes pride in their intelligence. IQ accounts for roughly 20% of your career success. Emotional intelligence accounts for 58%. And unlike IQ, which is largely fixed, EQ is trainable, which means it is a leadership choice. Bradberry's framework has 4 components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. And they build sequentially. You cannot manage what you don't recognize, and you cannot influence others before you can regulate yourself. The neurological reality is this: emotion arrives before logic every time. The signal reaches the limbic system, your emotional brain, before your rational brain even knows what is happening. Which means, unless you build a deliberate pause between stimulus and response, your emotions are making your leadership decisions for you. The leaders I coach who make the most dramatic progress do one specific thing. They map their triggers. They get deeply specific about what exact situations, people, or dynamics pull them out of their best leadership self. And then they install a physical interrupt, a breath, a word, a pause before they respond. The most powerful thing you can do this week is this: identify your top 2 emotional triggers. Write them down. Name what they feel like in your body before you respond. That awareness alone changes the pattern. Maybe you are dealing with your team emotionally. Hit the like and subscribe button and let us know in the comment your questions. We will work hard to bring you more topics like this. Now, pillar number 3, leadership. How the leader influences others. Identity is internal, growth is developmental, but leadership is relational. And this is where most of the books you've read probably live. Here is the thing though: if you skip pillars 1 and 2, everything in pillar 3 becomes a tactic with no foundation. You can learn all the influence principles in the world and still lose people's trust because they can tell you are performing rather than leading from something real. With that framing, let's look at 4 books. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Sinek's core thesis is deceptively simple. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. He calls it the golden circle. Why at the center, then how, then what on the outside. And almost every organization communicates from outside in. Here's what we do, here is how we do it, and here is what it costs. The problem is that the outer layers of the circle speak to the rational brain, and the rational brain is great at analysis, but terrible at trust. The why speaks to the limbic brain, the same structure responsible for emotion, belonging, and loyalty. That is the limbic brain speaking. The leadership application. Your team does not need a better slide deck explaining what they are doing. They need to feel connected to why it matters. If you can articulate your why, and I'm not talking about your mission statement here, but actual belief that drives everything, your influence will always have a ceiling. This week, rewrite one piece of communication. It could be an email, a Teams message, or a conversation opener from the outside in to the inside out. Start with belief and watch how differently people receive it. Book number 9, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Maxwell opens up this book with a statement that sounds simple and lands like a punch. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I expected something about authority, title, big office, but no, he said influence. And then he builds 21 laws around that premise. I want to give you 3 that I think every leader needs embedded in their operating system. Number 1, the law of the lead. Your organization's effectiveness cannot rise above your own leadership ability. If you are a 7 out of 10, your team's output is capped at 6. If growth has plateaued in your organization, the first place to look is not the market, it is you. Number 2, the law of process, which says influence doesn't come from a single great decision or a dramatic moment. It compounds quietly over time through thousands of small choices that either build trust or erode it. Leadership is a slow accumulation, not an event. Number 3, the law of solid ground. He says that trust is the foundation of everything, and trust is not built through competence alone. Competence will earn you respect, but character is what earns you trust. You can be the most capable person in the room and still have no one truly follow you if your character is in question. Where in your organization has growth stalled? Ask yourself honestly, is this an external problem or is this a leadership lead? The good news is the lead can be raised, which leads to book number 10, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0 by John Maxwell. Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership is one of the most useful framework I've encountered for diagnosing where you actually are versus where you think you are. Level 1 is position. People follow you because they have to. The relationship is purely transactional. You have a title, they comply. Level 2 is permission. People follow you because they want to. You've built actual relational capital. Level 3 is production. You are delivering results. People follow you because you get things done and they want to be part of that. Level 4 is people development. You are multiplying yourself. You are not just producing results. You are producing other leaders. This is where organizational impact compounds. Level 5 is the pinnacle. Earned over decades, people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. Most leaders believe they are at level 3 or 4. Their team often experiences them at level 1 or 2. The gap is where dysfunction lives. Now, here's the action. Honestly map your direct reports, not against where you wish you were, against which level of relationship you've actually built with each person. That map will show you exactly where your leadership energy needs to go. Be sincere with yourself. Next is book 11, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Willink developed this philosophy in combat, and it transfers to organizational leadership with almost uncanny precision. The central premise is there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. If your team underperforms, it is because you failed to communicate the mission clearly. You failed to train them adequately. It is because you failed to set the conditions for success. The failure belongs to you, not them. I have to admit, that is not a comfortable idea at all, and it is not meant to be. Willink calls the 2 archetypes the victim and the owner. The victim explains, the owner examines. When something goes wrong, the victim immediately locates the external cause, the market, the team member, the timing. The owner starts with the question, what did I miss? What did I fail to make clear? What did I fail to build? This doesn't mean you are responsible for everyone's individual choices. It means that the environment, the culture, the clarity of direction, those belong to you. And when those are right, performance follows. Next time something fails in your world, before you say anything to anyone else, open with this at your next debrief. Here is where I think my lack of clarity contributed to this outcome. Watch how the entire dynamic of that conversation shifts. Are you struggling with ownership in your personal or professional life? Our leader identity audit will help you assess where your leadership is currently rooted. It is free and will take you 10 minutes or less. The link is in the description. Now, let's go to the last pillar. Pillar number 4, impact. What leadership produces that outlasts the leader. This is where most leadership development stops short. Impact is not about what you accomplish, but what continues after you are no longer in the room. What you leave in people. What institution you build. What you pour out versus what you hold back. I'm reviewing 6 books here, but I will move a little faster because the principles are interconnected. Book number 12, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Look past the title. The real thesis of this book is about what happens when thought meets conviction and meets persistent action. Hill studied over 500 of the most successful people in his era and arrived at one conclusion. The single differentiator is what he called definiteness of purpose, a singular burning desire backed by a specific plan, a deadline, and a refusal to entertain the alternative. The practical application is strikingly simple. Write down one paragraph, your definite leadership objective. What exactly, by when, and what you are willing to pay for it. Read it every day. This sounds too simple to matter. It isn't. Trust me. Book number 13, A Game Plan for Life by John Wooden. Wooden never mentioned winning to his players. Not once. His entire philosophy was built around the pyramid of success. And the base of that pyramid is industriousness and enthusiasm, hard work and genuine joy. Not one without the other. But the lesson I want to pull from this book is about mentorship. Specifically, something one of his former players, Andy Hill, realized 25 years after playing for him. Mentorship happens whether you intend it or not. Your team is absorbing your actual values, not your stated ones. How you handle pressure, how you treat people who can do nothing for you, how you respond when the score doesn't go your way. If you want to build something that outlasts you, invest in one person's character right now. Not their skills, as important as that is. Their character. That is legacy work. Book number 14, Releasing Your Potential by Myles Munroe. Munroe argues that potential requires structure. It doesn't release itself through inspiration alone. It releases through discipline, through the right environment, through the willingness to place yourself in situations that demand what hasn't been developed yet. The image he uses is the seed and orchard. A single seed contains an entire orchard, but that orchard stays invisible forever unless the seed is planted, pressed, watered, and sometimes broken open. Most leaders are carrying seeds. Very few are planting them. Identify the talent you've been carrying. The one you know is there but haven't activated. Give it 3 structured hours a week and watch what grows. Not only you can release your potential, you can maximize it, which leads to book number 15, Maximizing Your Potential. If releasing your potential is about planting, this book is about harvest. His central philosophy is what he calls dying empty. It is pouring out everything, every capability, every ounce of vision before you are done. There are enemies you must be aware of and fight against. They are often well-dressed. Your past success, comfort, fear of losing what you've earned, the comparison trap. All of them have the same effect. The cap, what gets expressed. The question isn't how much you have built. It is how much is still inside you that the world hasn't seen yet. Book number 16, The Maxwell Leadership Bible by John Maxwell. I'd be doing this list a disservice if I didn't include this. Every principle in the books we've covered today, the identity work, the growth systems, the influence laws, the legacy thinking, Maxwell has mapped 2 ancient leadership profiles in this resource. What he gave me was a confirmation that these principles are untrained. They are not frameworks invented in the last 50 years. They've been true and of every leader who ever built something that outlasts them. That kind of historical validation matters. You might relate to this even more if you are a person of faith, as I am. Last but not least, book number 17, The Leadership Secrets of Billy Graham by Harold Miller and Marshall Shelley. This book is the practical case study threaded through everything else. Graham's impact wasn't scale. Scale is just a number. It was the integrity of his operating system. He built accountability structures, the Modesto Manifesto, before anyone demanded them. He made succession decisions decades in advance. He refused to drift from his core why, regardless of cultural pressure. He didn't just have a purpose. He protected it. And that is the final leadership lesson. Knowing your why is only half the work. The other half is building the systems that protect it from the forces, internal and external, that will inevitably test it. To conclude, I know we've covered a lot today, and my hope is that you don't see this as just a reading list, a set of tactics, or a sequence. What I want you to keep from this is that identity always comes first. That is who you are before you lead. Next is your growth, who you are becoming while you lead. Then your leadership, how you actually move people to achieve a common goal. And finally, your impact, what you produce that outlasts you. Every book we covered lives inside that architecture. And every great leaders I've ever studied, no matter the industry, no matter the era, built from the inside out, not the other way around. Don't forget to take the Leader Identity Audit. It is free. The link is in the description. Subscribe and share this video. I have also done a case study on extreme ownership you might enjoy. Click here. And I will see you in the next one. God bless.